What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about 5 different games that WB should allow other studios to make. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about selling these things off, but, we talk a lot about renting these IPs out, and I think renting them out, licensing, whatever you want to call them, I think, not only is that potentially the way forward, but it's just a good way of getting more things done in the WB umbrella, right? You want your Superman game, you want some of these things, you might actually have to reach outside of it. Now, it might not be the way forward. Last thing I'll say before we get into the list, contracts are expensive. We're seeing it with Marvel, we're seeing it with Star Wars, and we're actually seeing companies pulling out and not wanting to do it going forward. So, while it's something that I would like to see happen, and I do think it's generally the right move, especially from WB's perspective, from the rest of the industry, I don't actually know. If you have to pay $100 million just to get the rights, and then you have to then make your game, that's adding a lot of extra money that you don't need to add on to, right? So that's just something to kind of keep in mind as we go. And I want to thank ChadFile3416, who has been asking me to do this for a very, very long time. Now, here's the deal. I forgot if the original agreement that he asked me to make this video, I forget if we were talking about, specifically DC games or just WB in general. So I'm going to do WB in general, but I'm going to have several DC things in it, okay? Now, number one, let me just do like an umbrella statement. Many DC properties. So I'm going to give you a couple, examples in my top 5 here, but I'm talking Green Lantern, Green Arrow, anything green, Flash, Aquaman. I mean, you go down the list, right? I think any of them should be fair play, and if a PlayStation, if an Xbox, if an EA, if a Ubisoft, if any of these studios approaches you and says, hey, we want to make a Robin game, or hey, we want to make a, pick your character, right? I say you let them do it. Now, obviously, contracts and whatnot, right? But that's just something I want to kind of get out there. Any of them. I'm really not all that picky, although I have a couple for you. So let's start with 2 DC games, 1 and 2, not necessarily in any particular order, but Superman and Teen Titans. Now, I'm coming at this from slightly different, reasons, I guess, for either of them. Now, you imagine a Superman game should come from inside, should come internally, right? At the same time, you look around and you say, who's making it? Now, I actually, and I've said this before on the channel, I believe a Superman game is in the works. I kind of feel it's WB Montreal. We'll see if I'm right, but I feel like it's in the works internally. But you might not have confidence internally, right? You just had Rocksteady put out Suicide Squad. You had WB Montreal, who did Gotham Knights. They have 2 teams, though. One team has been working on something for a while, and then the Gotham Knights team is working on something. So you got 2 games there. You got Monolith that's making Wonder Woman, and they are making a second game. We just don't know if it's DC or not. So you have some studios, right? But it's like, if you're looking for your Superman team, there's not a lot of picks. Not a lot of picks just in general, and then you go to, quality picks, and we don't know. So I'm not expecting this. I'm definitely not expecting this. Is for the fun of the video. But you want a Superman game to be made. Is it better for a different studio or an outside studio to come in and approach it? Possible. Teen Titans, that's one is an interesting one to me, because I also kind of think that could come from WB Montreal. Gotham Knights was like a loose Teen Titans kind of origin story that you could do for some of these characters. I think it's just a good idea. I specifically think in this age of live service and stuff like that. Now, I don't necessarily want it to be live service, but if you could do like a cooperative, a single player primarily, but if you had multiplayer with it, I think that would actually be really cool. We have a Teen Titans game, but I think a more modern one, free flow combat, and you had multiple people, things like that. I think that would be kind of fun. So Teen Titans has always been high on my list, and also feels like it's kind of up the alley with what the gaming industry wants to do nowadays, right? Establish characters that are very popular. Everybody knows of Raven and Starfire and them. And also, it's part of the DC universe, and then, it's got multiplayer cooperative elements to it. I feel like it checks a lot of boxes, but I really want that one made, so I would also petition for somebody else to do it, because it just might never get made from WB. Okay, gonna go off the grid a little bit, and I'm gonna say Mad Max. So we have the Mad Max 2015 game that I'm actually very excited. It's obviously the 10-year anniversary next year. I'm going to be playing it for Back to the Past and doing a video on it. I was actually not a fan originally, but I've made a couple wrong assumptions on games, right? I don't know. Some games have not connected with me, and when I've given them second chances, they do. Game like actually Watch Dogs is probably a good example of that. Watch Dogs 1. So with that being said, number one, I really love the Mad Max just franchise, and Furiosa I thought was awesome, and so I want more done in that universe. Number two, I have seen a lot on the game. I played the game a little bit back in the day, but I've also seen stuff, and I'm willing in my brain to like say, okay, I might have been wrong on that one. So I feel like we already got a good Mad Max game. We deserve more of them. The problem is the movies don't really sell. The game didn't really sell. You'd again have to get the rights for it first, then make a game, and you're making it off of a franchise that it's got a name, but it'll probably be tough to like make your money back on that one. So that one's probably a pipe dream. I don't think you'll ever, well, I don't never say never. I don't think you'll get a Mad Max game for like a very, very long time. But I would say that's a good, more under the radar one for me. The next one is another kind of blankety kind of statement type thing. Harry Potter. I don't care what you do with it. And this is something that I think you can kind of have it all ways, right? Because clearly Hogwarts Legacy is the start, and their own team, an Avalanche did that. You had Unbroken, which is kind of like a support studio that's with you, right? And they did Quidditch Champions, which I thought was also probably moderately successful. So they've already started. They've already started to do multiple things in the Wizarding world. We know they're going to do more. They've already said that, right? I think you need more, and this would go back to the DC thing, right? Like the reason we always talk about DC properties being licensed out, there's just not enough studios, right? Give me right now in the comments, give me 5 DC games that you want, okay? You can type it out, but at the same time, let me kind of rain on the parade. You probably won't get any of them because they take 5-6 years to make, and there's only like 4 studios that make them. So actually, of your 5, the most you would get is 4, and you would get it, within the next 5-6 years if you're lucky. And that's kind of the point. And it's the same thing for the Wizarding world, right? Where, yeah, here's the thing. If you want to build an actual Wizarding world, like gaming kind of culture thing, you started strong. In fact, I don't think you could have started stronger than Hogwarts Legacy. I really think that's a great like pioneer effort there. But, if you really want multiple of these and you want it to grow, not just with Hogwarts Legacy, but Wizarding World, you're going to need help. You're going to need to allow other studios, not by you, to make Wizarding World, I was going to say Harry Potter, to make these games, right? Otherwise, you're stuck at making one every 4 or 5 years, when really you could have multiple of them every 4 or 5 years if you kind of open it up a little. And the final one, wanted to end it also with a more, I would say underappreciated, underrated type thing. I mean, you'll know the name, Fear. Fear is, when I think of Fear, I think of a game that's very scary. I think of a game that scared me growing up as a kid and renting it, playing it at my friend's house and all that jazz. But I mentioned Fear because we are in a renaissance, a resurgence, whatever you want to call it. We're in a renaissance of these type of horror games, and I actually think WB specifically is missing out on it because you're having over there Resident Evil come back and do better than literally ever before and just like, propel Capcom to the stratosphere where they've never looked down since. You also are having Silent Hill now come back, right? And from what we've seen, like I think it's going to go pretty okay. I mean, yeah, everybody's got different opinions, but whatever. I think it's going to go pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's 2 examples. I'm sure I could think of more if you give me enough time, but I feel like the time is now. I feel like if you were to remake, let's say, the first Fear, or you make a brand new Fear game, I actually think that would work. I feel like the appetite, it's kind of like a almost cliche thing to say. I think like the appetite is there for a game like Fear. And I mean, well, actually there are games like Fear, and Fear is like other games, and those games are working. So WB, I feel like, is kind of missing out on it. Now, Monolith is the one who did it. And like I said, they're working on 2 games, so Wonder Woman and another one. I wonder if it's Fear, but I kind of doubt it. So again, this is one where I just feel like they're missing out on that genre where they could be. I don't think it would be all that expensive. We're not talking about a open world Superman game. You're talking about a more linear type, horror action-y kind of thing. You could have a different studio do it. And again, they don't have to be a part of you. So I think those would work. I think actually all of them would find pretty good success. Just maybe not Mad Max. That's the only one. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure as always you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.